Okay, joining us today from The Athletic is Dom Fifield and also Matt Woosnam, who was at the Amex Stadium to witness Crystal Palace being beaten 1-0 by Brighton. Matt, first of all, thank you for putting yourself through this the morning after the night before. Any sign of the pressure or the situation getting to Patrick Vieira or the players last night?
I don't think after the game it was quite interesting. Vieira cut quite a relaxed figure. In recent weeks, I think it's been pretty clear in his press conferences that he's been feeling pressure. He said that he doesn't feel any more pressure than the day that he arrived at the club, which may be the case, but he certainly showed it more. Well, he certainly showed it more outwardly more recently. But I think it was just a performance that I think I've seen almost every week for the last 3 months, to be honest with you, last night. Same old problems for Palace. The players just didn't really, other than for the first 15, 20 minutes, just didn't really sort of turn up, I suppose. Certainly in attack, defensively, reasonably solid, but going forward, there just wasn't anything after an initial burst.
Dom, they did have a shot on target, which of course going into the game last night was a major talking point, but where are you at with the status of Palace and Vieira at the minute?
Well, I think I'm like a lot of Palace supporters at the moment. I think we all wanted this project to work. I think everybody out there appreciates and likes having Patrick Vieira as a figurehead at the top of the club. He comes across so well. He's a natural leader largely in terms of his reputation as a player. The way he talks, the way he acts, I think, and the way he's bought into the mentality of Crystal Palace Football Club as well.
That's very important, isn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, it just felt from the start, it felt like a good, fresh fit. However, that all said, this season, and it's not all down to him by any stretch of the imagination. I think he's been sold a bit of a pup in terms of the balance of the squad. That certain players haven't been replaced. Who needed to be replaced. There's a lack of strength of depth there. I'm not sure that he can play the type of football that he wants to play with this squad, and he hasn't shown an ability to adapt to what he has at his disposal, which has left Palace horribly, horribly short. And you can't say free fall because they've been 12th forever. But the reality is everybody below them is catching them up, and eventually it'll get to the point where where they continue not to win, where they're overtaken and submerged beneath the relegation zone. I thought the most telling thing about Wednesday night, in much the same way as it was, I don't know, in December against Nottingham Forest, or I think it was last month against Aston Villa, it may have been earlier this, I can't remember. They all merged into one. The performance, as Matt says, was exactly the same. A bright opening, you spurn your chances to take the lead, and then most critically of all, after half time, the team looks clueless. It looks rudderless. It doesn't have an obvious pattern of play, an obvious target, an obvious, where what are they trying to do? What is the plan? There isn't a plan, unfortunately. And I think that is rather damning of Patrick Vieira and his coaching staff. And to be honest, towards the end of that game at the Amex, I thought he cut a very lonely and forlorn-looking figure on the touchline. He wasn't the imposing figure that we saw in his Arsenal days, or when it's been going well at Palace as a manager. He looked like somebody who was wearing the weight of the world on his shoulders. He had that haggard look on his face that precedes a manager losing his job.
There's lots of options in attack for Crystal Palace. That doesn't seem to be the issue, but it's the quality of those individual players that's in question, Dom, isn't it? Especially at the moment.
If I just say one more thing, just quickly,
the
other thing that's been quite interesting about Vieira is, again, he quite often repeats that it's the decision making in that final third that's the issue. I think, again, as many times as Palace have played the same game this season, I've heard Vieira in a post-match press conference, in a pre-match press conference, say the same thing time and time again. But the onus is on him to fix that as well.
I was going to say, you could be coaching that, couldn't you? As time goes by, you could be helping these players to make the right decisions. Dom, what do you think?
Well, I think that's quite telling that you say that. When this ends, whether it's before Arsenal, after Arsenal, the end of the season, whenever it is, if you sit down in the cold light of day and work out which players in Palace's squad have improved over the last 2 years, it's really not very many. And that, unfortunately, boils down to the coaching that they're receiving. If you look at, and Palace fans will hate this, but if you look at Brighton, under Graham Potter and De Zerbi, players have improved, are improving. They're getting better each week. Unfortunately, that's just not the case at Palace. You could make an argument for Michael Olise. He's been slightly better, but actually his I think end product is probably slightly down on last season. I mean, Eberechi Eze, okay, the Achilles injury was significant and it's difficult to recover from that. And he's shown flashes at times, but his performance at Brighton in the second half was of a player that is devoid of belief in his own ability. I mean, the conviction has been drummed out of these guys by this run of results, and it's that is poor. I mean, Mark, maybe the back line, maybe Mark Gay has improved slightly, although I think it's arguable whether he's had as good a season as last year, and that's the essence of it. You need improvement. When you're a club of Palace's size, you can't go into the market and spend £110 million in every window. You need a coaching staff that is going to get the best and maximise what you've got at your disposal and improve the players at your disposal. And I don't think that's what's been happening the last almost 2 years.